Hi, I'm Nate Flax.
I'm Noah Longworth McGuire.
And this is Talking Lion.
Talking Lion is a podcast focused on artist-to-artist conversations.
We're primarily artists, a duo called Sleeping Lion. And throughout our career as songwriters and producers, we've had the opportunity to work with so many incredible rising artists.
Talking Lion is about hitting record on the conversations we've had with our musical friends and collaborators to get a glimpse into what their life's been like and where it's going.
A few reminders before we start.
Firstly, we now have a Patreon for fans of the show to show their support and help keep the show going.
As a Patreon subscriber, not only will you earn rewards, but you'll also gain exclusive access to a chat room in our Discord server.
Here you can talk with us and even suggest questions for our guests.
Go to patreon.com/talkinglion to subscribe.
We appreciate your support.
As we mentioned, we also have a Discord server that's become a sort of community hub for Sleeping Lion and Talking Lion. We're very active on there and very eager to talk to you about who you are on the show and how you feel about the new episodes, as well as just talking about life.
So yeah, come through and you can talk with us. You can make some new friends, share your art, and share your memes.
Go to sleepinglionmusic.com/discord to join our server.
We hope to see you there.
Lastly, our face is on a shirt. We have shirts now for Talking Lion with our faces on them. If you want to wear us on your shirt, buy a shirt. It helps support the show and it shows your friends that you like Sleeping Lion and Talking Lion.
You can find these shirts on our website, sleepinglionmusic.com/store. Pro tip. Patreon supporters of the honorary Lion tier or higher will get a free shirt.
Now back to the show. Trigger warning for this episode. Though we don't talk in depth about it, we do touch on topics of body dysmorphia, eating disorders, and addiction. If you or anybody you're listening with find these topics triggering, we encourage you to skip this episode and listen to an earlier or later episode. We respect and support your mental health and your peace of mind.
We recorded this episode with our good friend Emlyn.
We operated in pretty similar circles with Emlyn for a while, but we actually didn't really meet her until the pandemic.
Yeah, the first time we hung out, we all shared our music with each other, and it was a really, really great experience.
I had met her prior to that at a Grammy party, but we were both too drunk to remember. She's an incredible songwriter with an EP on the way that we're really, really excited for.
We got to listen to it early, and it absolutely blew our minds.
She's one of our favorite writers and favorite people, and her dog Banana is adorable.
Go follow Banana Loves Peanut Butter on Instagram.
So,
without further ado,
I'm Emlyn, and this is Talking Lion.
well, hey. Hello.
Hi. How are you guys doing?
How's it going?
Oh, it's good. It's good. Just another day in quarantine.
You've become a good friend of ours in this quarantine, so that's the long and short of it.
I know there's been great things about quarantine and not so great things, and one of the great things has been like having a pod of people that I love and get along with really well. It's been an upside for sure.
Well, I think about how like everybody I care about in my like immediate LA experience, I kind of met as a direct result of the pandemic, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's a complicated feeling. Like,
yeah,
I wish we could reverse time and get rid of all of the economic problems and the death and everything that came around to it. But also, I am so grateful. There's a underlying gratitude to like, amidst all of this, that there was still like love and friendship.
Yeah, I think it's a testament to the human spirit.
That I
think, everyone managed to find the silver lining in a really bad situation because we didn't really have another choice.
I also think in general, like human beings tend to prevail in the face of obstacles in like a really beautiful kind of like complex way. Like whenever stuff gets really bad, I think people, obviously we adapt, but we also we find a way to find beauty in everything. I certainly have experienced that at least.
I always feel like we human beings will always seek comfort.
Yeah.
Like I think that's something you could almost always rely on. So we always when this first happened, it was extremely uncomfortable to change our entire way of living in a city or whatever. But I think a lot of people, unfortunately, that's worked in the opposite direction of people not taking this seriously and not not making the sacrifices necessary to stop this thing.
Right.
But on the other side, I think it's led to us reaching out to the people that we care about and maintaining connections and finding that kind of comfort in a different kind of direction, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Well, I've always thought that the double-edged sword of the human experience is that we adapt to everything.
Right.
Like, that means that if a situation is really bad, we will find a way to thrive in it. But it also means like, we just get used to everything. Like no matter what our circumstance is, it always levels out, which from a mental health perspective can mean like no matter how good your external circumstances get, your internal world will always be whatever you're wrestling with. Like it cuts both ways.
Right.
So
And you can even like accept terrible situations and not try to actively change them.
Exactly.
I was just thinking the other day, like if somebody had told me right at the beginning of the pandemic how long it would last, what the effects would be, how many people would die, like all these horrible things, I don't think my brain would have been able to like handle it. Like I think I would have had a full on like meltdown. And it's just proof that like, I mean, obviously just over time, as things change, you adapt. Like I don't think I would have been able to manage it.
I think our ability to like accept a situation has led to either people still just not wearing masks and doing like being ridiculous about it, but also B, like I feel like we need to be like, I feel like we all should have been angrier.
I know.
Right.
At like, the administration and the system that sort of set that up.
I mean, we were angry enough to flip, to like win the election.
Right.
So.
But not by a lot.
Not by enough.
I feel like we could have been as a collective society angrier.
I think we're a product of like what we're seeing around us though. I noticed that for sure. Like traveling, I traveled safely and actually drove to Nashville in the middle of the pandemic, and just the difference in like how people are living in Nashville versus LA, like it's just a reality of like what they're experiencing around them. And like, in LA, it's like the epicenter of COVID. So you walk outside and like you will not find somebody not wearing a mask. Like everyone's wearing masks. In Nashville, it was a lot different just because the normal there was just different than it is here. And I think people kind of just like accept sort of what they're seeing around them.
Right.
There was this like kind of epiphany that I had when I was in New York. I really didn't want to travel, but I had to. It'd been a year since I'd seen my family. There were reasons I had to go back, and it was all safe. Like I actually wore a face shield and 2 masks and took a test before leaving, and then quarantined for 14 days in New York, and took another test on the other side of it. So, and nobody in my experience got sick. I'm very, very grateful for that. But one of the things that kind of like hit me while I was in New York was that like I had this anger in me. I had this like deep, deep resentment for all the people who were throwing parties and all the people who were still playing shows. And I understand that I'm somewhat on that hypocritical spectrum because I did travel, but like I was just getting so angry at everybody who kind of like exacerbated this thing by going to restaurants and everything like that too. Yeah. And then it kind of hit me that I can look at this from like a place of anger of like people are stupid and people are selfish, and that could be true. Mm-hmm. But what could also be true in parallel is that we all really love each other. That we all love seeing shows and we all love experiencing culture and we all love seeing our friends, that we make these stupid decisions, maybe out of stupidity, but also maybe out of selfishness, but also maybe out of love, and
desire, I think that, like to connect with people just in general.
Yeah.
It's very
and
human.
I feel like, I feel like this is just a very human reaction to something that we couldn't fully
I think, and that's the thing, I think
grasp.
at the end of the day, the thing that we can all agree on is that this sucks.
Yeah.
Like we're all having different reactions to it. We're all making different decisions. We all have different thresholds for what our risk factor is. Yeah. But everyone's going through the same thing in a way that is not to use, at this point, the word has become trite, but it is unprecedented how unifying this experience is for the global community.
100%.
So it's really complicated, but I'm glad at the end of it. Here's just what we were talking about, that there are friendships that wouldn't exist, and life moves how it moves, and we're all very lucky and very grateful. But also, once you put on your own mask, I feel like we've all tried to find ways to be helpful and help other people as well in this too. I hope even this little piece of escapism allows you to, dear listener, to find solace. But it's interesting because, kind of diving into it, like we knew of you for a while.
Right.
Because we wrote with Hailey Knox. I knew Hailey since I was a teenager because we would play the same open mics, though we had never met. We would just always be on the same, like,
I didn't know
we'd
that.
be talked about in the same sort of circles. People would keep mentioning her to me, like, oh, do you know this other person from Westchester?
Right.
And I knew that she was super talented, but also I was a little older, so it kind of like I didn't want to just like reach out of the blue.
Mhm.
Right. I also wasn't songwriting; I was just doing the artist thing, so I didn't quite understand that layer of it.
Yeah.
And then I went to one of her live shows. I also met Peter Zizzo there.
Oh yeah.
Who, crazy enough, he had been like a music partner with like the guy who recorded my first EP when I was in 8th grade. Like one of those crazy kind of things. But yeah, you know, so when we finally started working with Hailey and we wrote Red Eye, like Peter and Hailey, they just kept bringing up Maggie. They kept bringing up Maggie. Everybody's talking about Maggie. And we're like, who's Maggie? And Emlyn, she's awesome. And I'm like, that's awesome. And I loved Hardwired.
Oh, thank you.
You know, that was the song on that record.
Thank
you know,
that was such a special experience writing with her. Like, she's such a musician and
she's
the
just
truest,
a ball of light. She's just music. She just breathes it. Like it just comes out of her in the most fluid way of literally anyone I've ever come into contact with.
I've said that like writing with Hailey Knox is not creation, it's curation.
Yes,
like she will come up with like 8 like good proper could sell a bunch of records hook in like 2 minutes,
like by accident.
And you just pick by accident. You just gotta like pick the one. You know, like
her brain works so fast. She's like, wait, slow down. I need to like unpack just the last 30 seconds of what you just sang.
I know we had to slow down a lot.
I
think she would agree with you about the curation versus creation thing because she brought that hook of Hardwired, like hardwired differently. She just played that and I was like, I'm sorry, like is that a song? She was like, no, it's just like something I came up with. And I was like, well, it's about to be.
I love that.
And she was going through some stuff during the time, and the fact that we were really close friends and on just such a deep level allowed for us to get really real about some stuff that was happening in her life and write lyrics that she really connected to, just like on the floor of her hotel room eating like food from the minibar. So it was really special. I mean, that song is like really moving and it's just her through and through. And I just asked questions and tried to get to the bottom of what she wanted to say. And so was born the song. I
mean, and that was, you know, like that was our first sort of understanding of you as a songwriter. I think I'm actually just having a memory now that I think when you mentioned the hotel, I think we drove her to the hotel.
Was it the like, Grafton on Sunset?
Did it have like a green awning?
I think so, yeah.
Then that's probably it. Yeah, I think we drove her to see you, and we still didn't know who you were. Like Aww. It was just, and that's the thing too is a couple of years passed,
right?
And then Kira is like, yeah, my friend Maggie, like. I'm like, Maggie, why does that sound familiar?
It's like we had so many almost run-ins and through people, because I heard about you guys too, like so many different times. I think that we even like met at like a party one time very briefly in passing. And I just like...
I was very drunk.
No. I was very drunk.
No. I was very drunk.
because after we hung out with Kira, I remember you texted me because we like exchanged phone numbers, and I like went and saw my text that you had texted me your name, and I was like, your name? Like when did he text? How did I have this phone number? And then I realized it was when we were both drunk, and you were like, we have to connect, and I was like, totally. But everyone's like sloshed at those parties, so
it was like friends and family or something like that, right?
Oh yeah, one of those
ones. like Grammy
warehouse
parties or whatever.
Yeah, warehouse Grammy parties.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, I'm Maggie, like Emlyn. I'm like, wait, like Hailey's Maggie, like yeah, here's the phones, let's connect.
Phones,
and then I'm like, I forgot, and so then when we like reconnected with Kira, I like texted you. I asked you your number. I texted you, and then like other texts popped up.
I know. I was like, shoot.
I've never been to one of these parties, but it seems like from context clues and from stories that I've heard that you go in, you get sloshed, you black out, and then you wake up with 50 new contacts on your phone.
Yes. You go in
the contacts are like platinum record.
Right. No, it's like it's a huge event. It's a
but
crazy,
the problem is that no one's
incubator.
sober enough to like process it. And like my experience is like you go in, you get sloshed, you like run into people, like again, really important people that like you should be sober when you interact with, and then you like get all their information and then you forget about it the next day. And you're like, oh wait, I met blah, blah, blah at that party.
I'm remembering now, there was, to get to the main room, there was this very small, like a door that was smaller than it needed to be to let the number of people pass.
Right,
So there was almost like a gridlock. Like a bottlenecking into this this main room.
It's horrible.
Which is where the open bar was.
Right.
Well, one of the many open bars.
Right.
And I had just met Jackson and Emma from Loot. And I see you, and you were with somebody who I was vaguely aware you had written some stuff with, and that's how I kind of recognized that it was like you. I was just like, you're Hailey's Maggie, and you're like hello, and I'm like I'm Sleeping Lion Boy.
I probably
was
like oh hello,
and then I was like all over the place.
Amazing.
But anyway, I love that. That's an LA. That's
an
an LA story.
Experience.
But Hailey, Kira, extremely talented folks. You're extremely talented.
Oh my gosh.
Where are you from?
Thank you. I was one of the few born and raised in Nashville, Tennessee.
Ooh.
Which I'm told makes me a unicorn. I didn't know what that meant, but every time I tell people, they're like, you're a unicorn. And I'm like, all right, I'll take it. I was born and raised there. My dad's a musician. So my mom and my dad moved there for my dad's music. And then they had me and my brother. And I was there actually until I was 13. And then I moved up north to the Northeast, and I did my 8th grade year at like a local elementary school, and then I went to a boarding school for high school.
Where in the Northeast?
In New Hampshire.
Oh,
gotcha.
New Hampshire.
I know.
New Hampshire.
Interesting.
Yes. I went to a boarding school that was literally like an athletic boarding school. I don't really know how I ended up there, besides the fact that it's just a great school.
How was that cultural transition from like Tennessee, like the South, to New England boarding school?
At the time, I wasn't enjoying my experience socially at my school in Nashville, that I was just so ready to try something new.
Okay.
So I don't think I was able to grasp the culture shock per se, but I was still doing music, or trying to. I hadn't really figured out what I needed to do music, but I would fly back and forth from Nashville to New Hampshire because my parents are divorced, and my dad, like I would visit my dad. And so I was still kind of doing like writers' nights and like open mic nights in Nashville while I was like at boarding school. It felt very Hannah Montana for the age.
I mean, that'll definitely do it.
Yeah.
What did your dad do musically? And also, is your brother musical?
Yes, he's my brother is musical. My dad is a drummer. He was a session drummer for a long time, and then he played on the road with like a bunch of country people that you probably would know, I'm sure. And he produces a little bit, but he's just like a phenomenal drummer. And my brother is like a multi-instrumentalist. He plays everything, and he's like the reason that I picked up any instrument and decided that I was going to do it. He's like, he does it more like for fun. He has an amazing band. It's actually, he has a ska band, and he has like a jam band.
You want to shout it out?
Yeah, Sonic Libido is his ska band.
Amazing.
Check
Incredible.
it out.
Wonderful.
He's phenomenal. I mean, he's just like so talented on every instrument. You can pick up anything and play anything. It's something I definitely don't have, but inspired me for sure. Yeah, I was around music.
No, were you involved with the people in Nashville? Like our first sort of like music trip was to Nashville, and we kind of met like Fangs and R. Lamar and Chris Marniago, like that.
Yeah, no,
side of like the Nashville crew.
My experience in Nashville growing up was very much that of like just a girl who lived in Nashville. I was trying to get my bearings with like people and connections and stuff, but mostly by doing that, it was just by like playing open mic nights. And I was a part of Nashville Songwriters Association, which would do, they would do like nights where you would just meet and make connections with people. So there's a few people that I'm still close with that I met really when I was young. But for the most part, I've kind of reintroduced myself to Nashville over the last few years because my A&R that signed me to my publishing deal is based in Nashville. So I go back and forth now quite a bit, and I've started kind of like building relationships more in my later life.
We've gotten excited every time you come back from Nashville because you always have new demos.
Right? Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Like,
and that little small thing called my producer lives in Nashville, and I do my entire artist project in Nashville.
Huge. Also, wait, speaking of being growing up musician in Nashville, did you ever play the kids open mic at Two Old Hippies?
I went to open mics there, but I never played it. But yeah,
infamous. That was when I was on the infamous children's open mic at Old Hippies. I think I played like one like during the middle of the day when I went on like I was touring Belmont, which was like my second, like my ultimate, or no, it wasn't even Belmont because I didn't want to go to Belmont. It was MTSU. MTSU had a really good engineering program, and that was like super duper safety school if like everything hits the fan.
That's where my friend went. Actually, she did engineering at MTSU.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly, it has one of the highest employment rates for audio engineers. Yeah. Like it's a really good school if you want to just do the engineering thing in Nashville.
Yeah, it's so good.
But I went
That's so funny.
On my one trip to Nashville, I went to like Two Old Hippies and played a little open mic, and I got to go to a writer's round at the Bluebird Cafe.
Oh my gosh.
Like, got to like see a little bit of that world.
Really, really
cool.
A weird, like, it's so crazy because that's just like the Bluebird Cafe is in like Green Hills, which is like a part of Nashville that you just like drive through if you're like going to the mall. If you grew up there, I would always drive by the Bluebird, and like there's a line like down the street because you have to like win the lottery basically to get in because it's a small venue. It's tiny. It's a cafe basically.
So small. Yeah.
But it's so infamous that everybody's trying to go. So it's funny just to see people like in line at this like in this bougie town, Green Hills, like trying to get into this cafe. It's so weird, but it's like so
Whereas
famous.
For me, I think I can't remember the timeline necessarily, but I think I was watching the show Nashville at the time, which was using the Bluebird Cafe as a set. Like a huge part of that show takes place in the Bluebird. Like a bunch of the characters are doing service jobs at the Bluebird.
During when Nashville was filming the show, I probably ran into 6 different people on the cast at different points. I don't know what it was with like fate and me ending up at the exact same places.
Did you meet Connie Britton and or a very young Lennon Stella?
I have met Lennon on different occasions, but not Connie Britton. I met like Charles Eston. I met like the girl that played Scarlett on a hike one time.
Great.
Yeah.
She's great.
Oh my God, so good. All of them are so talented. But I just kept running into them at like cafes and stuff. And I was like, really? Is this like the new LA now? But anyway, it was fun. But yeah,
I feel that my hometown, Little Dobbs Ferry, New York. They shoot like a lot of like the sort of Rivertown, New York suburb, like movies and shows there. So Jesse Eisenberg was there once. Right. The Leftovers did the whole first season there. I'm a huge fan of The Leftovers.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, Matt's church was right across from the bagel shop.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's awesome. When did you get to LA? When did you make that move?
It was quite the trip. I've somehow managed to hit every like major music city by accident, having like grown up in Nashville, and then I went to a boarding school. It was sort of like a detour in my mind, although I used a lot of my time at my boarding school to like practice writing by myself because again, not much of a social life, so I would just like lock myself in practice rooms and like figure out how to play songs and write songs, and then I went to college in New York City at the school called the New School, and I chose the New School. Like I was choosing between Berklee College of Music and the New School, and I really chose it because I'm just like a very independent brain person, and I was like, I want to be in a city where I can kind of make opportunity for myself, and I loved New York, so I was like, that's where I'm going.
I mean, and you're right off Union Square. Like that was my favorite place in the world to be.
Yeah, it's a good little neighborhood.
Oh, good stuff. Yeah. It was popping. I didn't have like my school was so weird because it didn't have Greek life. It wasn't your typical like college experience. It was just a bunch of people like kind of doing their own thing, trying their best, and like. But it was so fun. I mean, to be an 18, 19-year-old in New York City, like figuring out life and trying to go to shows, and it was a blast. But anyway,
we joke that Berklee doesn't have fraternities or sororities. They have a cappella groups.
Yeah.
I've heard that actually.
The closest you're gonna get.
That's amazing.
Or ultimate frisbee team.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have sports at all. But it's a weird scenario, but basically what happened was I was putting music out as Maggie Peak, which is my name also. It was like coffee house music. Yeah, hi, nice to meet you. Re-meet you. And I put a song out called Boy, and it got syndicated on Sirius XM Coffee House, and it basically floated its way. This is a very condensed version because I had met this radio DJ years before. His name's Zach Sang, and the song was syndicated on Coffee House, and I was really good friends with his little sister. I know this all sounds very misplaced, but it'll come together. And he heard the song and reached out to me basically and was like, hey, I really love this song of yours. Do you have a manager? And I was like, no, I don't have anything. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, thank you for liking my song. And he was like, well, I have this guy for you. He met my manager now, Josh Russack when he was Meghan Trainor's day-to-day manager, and Meghan did Zach's show. And he was like, I just think that you guys will get along. You should just talk. And I started flying back and forth to LA, working with writers and artists that Josh was putting me in with. And I started kind of like dipping my toe into the LA scene by accident, just because Josh lived there and all of his connections were there. And then I kept being like, I want to move to LA. I want to move to LA. And he was like, well, A, you're in school. And B, he was really adamant about me having like momentum, so that like when I moved there was actually stuff happening. Cause I think a lot of times people just make the move and they're like flailing around like, what do I do now? I want to be a musician. And I think he wanted me to feel like I had some support. So anyway, I had a trip that I did that we extended a few times because a bunch of stuff was happening, and he was like, all right, you can move out here now. So I moved out, and right before I had moved out, I had met with my publisher, and it was just like
Did you get the publisher while you were in college?
Yes, I did sign my deal when I was in college. I met her while I was still like in school, and then I moved to LA, and what I did was I worked through the summer and the fall online, and I graduated remotely from when I was living in LA. And then I signed my deal like the last semester that I was in school.
Nice.
And my A&R at the time, she was living in New York. Now she lives in Nashville. So anyway, it's all like the trifecta cities. I somehow managed to.
Yeah, you really hit all the stops.
Exactly. Yeah.
What publisher are you with?
Atlas.
Nice. Cool.
Indeed. Yeah. It was recently acquired by Scooter Braun, and I didn't even realize that when I was signing with them, and then I ended up being the first signee under his acquisition.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Have you met Scooter?
I have not yet. I think it's like he's a busy man.
Right.
That's awesome. You made it out. You made the LA move. Is that around the time you met Hailey and stuff too? And
I started working with Hailey when I was living in New York, actually.
Cool.
I'm trying to remember like how that even came to be. I think that Josh knew Peter Zizzo from years before. And then maybe that's how they connect. I honestly can't remember how Hailey even got into my world, but I know that I had wanted to like pitch songs to her at first, and then eventually we got in the room together and we just clicked hard. I mean, she's brilliant. I gravitate towards
that's
like
awesome.
Yeah, I like hard gravitate towards artists and musicians that like really just are creatively so outside of the box, where my only job is to like help them like curate exactly what you're saying, because it's so fun for me to help somebody who's kind of like, what, I have all these ideas from you, like, oh, I got you. My organizational brain is like, I got you. I will help you, Virgo.
Well, that's the thing is like when we like first started doing this, I think we were actually pretty discouraged by the fact that like the capital P pop stuff didn't come naturally.
Yeah.
From a production standpoint and from a writing standpoint. And what's been really, really cool is that over the years, we've actually wound up getting more and more work from people who want something that isn't down the middle pop,
right.
Something that could sort of define their sound and organize their sound.
Totally.
And say their thing, so it's not the same hook or flip like over and over and over
100%,
again.
Yeah.
One of the things that really I think floored both of us when you showed us, because I remember the one night you just like at Kier's, you just showed us your record. Like you showed us the project that you're working on right now, and we were losing our shit. Like we weren't like gassing you up. We were like straight up like it felt like a moment of like hearing something like a potentially massive record early.
That is wow. Thank you.
I mean, I'm not even just saying that. I'm just saying that as facts. Like I'm not even taking the thank you because that's just the facts.
I have to say thank you though, because like when you're on the other end of it and you're the person putting all the energy and the heart into it, to get that kind of feedback actually really is impactful. Like you have no idea.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well, the thing we appreciated was that like we've been chewing at the bit of how like a lot of producers, ourselves included, are now making great records, came up in this era of mid 2000s pop punk.
Yeah.
From like, Linkin Park and A Day to Remember and Say Anything to Avril Lavigne and
my girl,
certain songs on Kelly Clarkson's record. Like
you can't forget about our queen,
Hailey Williams.
Literally, my three of the most people that influenced my sound the most. You just named them all: Paramore, Kelly Clarkson, Avril Lavigne. huge.
Did you meet Hailey in Nashville?
No, I wish. Oh my God. I don't know what I would do with myself. There's a couple people on my list, like, of people that I'd meet that I wouldn't know what to say. For sure. Like Taylor Swift, I can't do it. It's not going to happen. And I've seen her interact with fans and videos and stuff. She's like the chillest, like most patient person. I would be like, listen, I couldn't even voice this, but I'd be like, I have so many things to ask you and to say, but nothing's coming out of my mouth. So this is not, there's no point in this.
It's kind of an impossible thing.
Yeah. I never want to meet Justin Vernon, like Bon Iver.
Oh, no.
Like, I have nothing to say to you. I have
everything but nothing.
Yeah, there's like nothing good I could say that like, because you're not a human to me.
Yeah, exactly. There's certain people you don't want to actually humanize that much because of how kind of mythical and magical their impact
100%. Yeah. I'm so with you.
But all of this to say that your record really hit us. That like this was really influenced by Avril Lavigne and by Hayley Williams, by stuff that we grew up listening to, as opposed to reacting to whatever's coming out now.
Right. Yeah.
But with such a current sound to it.
Oh, thank you.
And also, I mean, we're theory nerds, so like the little chromatic thing you do in Cruel World, we were like stoked about.
Well, it's musically so rich.
There's a guitar solo at the end of 1,000 Parties. I'm like,
exactly. It's sick.
Yeah, I think the big part of it is like what I grew up listening to mostly was a combination of like Britney Spears, Taylor Swift, the pop NSYNC, the poppest of it all, combined with what you're saying. Like, I went through my own emo scene phase. So obviously Paramore, and I went through the Avril Lavigne, I went through even Kelly Clarkson, but then combined with like all my brother would listen to was like Green Day or AC/DC and Led Zeppelin. And so I had like I feel like my heart's always been in pop, but I've had a taste for the kind of grunge and the edge, and like watching Hayley Williams perform is like my dream.
Oh
like
my God.
That's like would be the iconic like scenario for me. So like I think just my taste was formed based on pop and rock, truly just like fused together. And so all the melodies that I naturally am inclined to come up with, and the things that I find to be the coolest and the most inspiring, tend to be like guitar solos or like chromatic melodies or like, and we're gonna belt here, like, you know, that's just like what I love. So it just comes through.
And when I heard the belt on Cruel World in the pre-chorus, I was like, Noah and I like exchanged a look.
Yeah.
That was like, yeah, she's our people.
Yeah.
Like I was saying to you actually, like around the time we like scheduled this, that like I woke up with the song in my head after having fallen asleep with the song in my head.
Thank
but like
you.
I love that belt. I love those like intense moments, because I feel like a lot of the songs we hear now, it's like it's belting and singing for the sake of kind of showing off a vocal, as opposed to what I love about somebody like Hayley Williams, which is like an outpouring of emotion.
Oh, thank you.
You know, like an anger.
Well, I had so much fun. Like you mentioned 1,000 Parties. I had so much fun doing all the little ad libs and like crazy vocal things, like even over the guitar solo. Cause like some of my favorite stuff like watching on stage is like when a guitarist is playing in part with the vocalist and like they're doing this thing and you're like, yeah, da, 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 like all the little it's like every instrument and vocal playing in part with one another, and I just have so much fun. I so appreciate you commenting on my belt. It's taken a very long time for me to get to a place where I'm confident doing it, because for a long time like I thought I sounded screechy and like screamy, and I, you know, kids are mean in high school, and I got some some feedback similar to that. So I shied away from it for so long. Even in studios, when my job was to be writing melodies, I just wouldn't do it. And there were a couple circumstances where I was in with producers and I tried it. I just gave it a shot, and they were like, "Whoa, do that!" And I was like, "Really? Should I do that?" And it just took a couple people being like, "You sound great when you do that," for me to be like, "Okay, I just gotta like perfect it and hone in on it and work on my control." And I definitely feel that I've grown a lot with that element of my voice.
We were kind of just like, it was like drilled into us that it's not quote unquote like pop to, because we started in the kind of like bedroom pop, like hype machine era
Bandcamp
of pop,
right when Spotify playlists started existing.
So like it wasn't cool to lose your shit, to lose your cool or whatever. It wasn't pop. But in this, like in the new record that we're working on, like we've been belting, we've been yelling, we've been doing gang vocals and stuff like that, because that's what got our blood boiling listening to stuff when we were kids, and even now, like
100%.
So it was very cool to hear your record, and also very validating. It felt like some of the people that we admired and respected the most were moving in a direction that felt like home to us. And
that's just the thing that happens, right? As creatives, as we get older, as we age into our success within our creative industry, we start bringing in elements of the stuff that raised us, just like a natural part of the process.
I think I just got really lucky too with my producer. Like it was like an act. Cruel World was the first song we ever wrote together. It was like we just were thrown in a session and that's what we came up with. And for me, that song was like, oh, this is my guy. Like, this is my sound. He gets it. Like, the biggest tip off for me, and I tell him this all the time, was like, as an artist, I'm a little like controlling. I say that in one of the lyrics of my songs too. Not as an artist, as a human being, I'm controlling. But I have a lot of like ideas, especially when it comes to production. And the first draft I got back of Cruel World, I had like a list of notes that I was like, hey, can we try this? And I was used to having producers kind of like take some of them, but not all of them. And I like got on a call with him and I would be like, hey, would you be down to try this? And he'd be like, yeah. And then I'd be like, okay, cool. What about this? He'd be like, done, got it. And it was like, yes, after yes, after yes. And I was like, oh my God, is this what it's like to work with somebody who's like trusts you and respects you as the artist? And like, he did everything on my list and I got it back and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And we just had such a great working relationship. Like we have great chemistry. We can like read what the other person's going to do next and like what the other person will find cool. And I just got so lucky. He's so freaking brilliant.
I mean, that's a kind of soulmate. I mean, we, in a sense, we kind of like found it within each other. But like, I know that even just from the chemistry of some of the folks we work with, that like there are people where it's like I will go down every single rabbit hole because I trust that you will tell me exactly when we find the thing you're looking for. And then there are people where I'm like, I don't trust you know what you're looking for. And that's a huge dichotomy.
And in this case, it was like the whole project besides Cruel World. Cruel World's the only song that we didn't write in quarantine. Like he lives in Nashville, I live in LA. And we've had a lot of opportunities to work together in person. So I know what he's capable of and the level of trust that you have to feel, I think, to work with somebody on Zoom or on FaceTime is like, especially as a producer, because you're getting like really minimized, like compressed quality sounding stuff through your headphones, through like a delay. There's so many elements that like you can't control. A lot of it is just trusting that the person on the other end is like getting your vision and is going to get it there with you. And everything we did through quarantine like was a matter of me being like, okay, it's not where I want it to be right now, but I know when I get this bounce, it is going to be, because he knows what I'm thinking. Like I would be like, oh, do you mind if we actually do like an extra fill or like a drum fill or like a riser at this point? And he's like, I'm way ahead of you. And he'll play it back. He's like, it's already in there. And I'm like, okay, great. Like, so.
Well, it's, as a songwriter that like your job in a session is to make the room sparkle with electricity. Like your job as a songwriter and as a producer is to like get the vibe in the room to feel right.
Totally.
And that's so hard with Zoom, but if you have that chemistry, you can make the third room of this Zoom room have that same electricity. I mean, it's a skill that we're struggling with currently, but it's a skill that like with the right people is second nature. It's not something you even have to think about. So it's really exciting that like that you found that.
Yeah,
I think it shows in the record. Like the record slaps.
It's
like
so
it
good.
sparkles, it shimmers. It's heartbreaking. It's angry. you feel everything.
Yeah,
and
that's the frustrating,
and it's biting and funny
that's,
areas
that's the frustrating
too,
part about you, is that you're not just like a nutso, like you don't just have a nutso artistic vision and like a nutso voice, and you're not just great with melodies and clearly have a producer brain that allows you to create this very defined sonic palette. Your actual pen game, like your lyric writing is insane.
Oh, thank you.
It's just like
so
how
much.
like how is one human just such a well-contained like proficient artist?
Well, thank you for saying all of that. It's definitely not a single person game. Like it's about being able to collaborate and know and like knowing like where you fit into the room and stuff. And like I appreciate that like on such a crazy level, because I'm a songwriter like through and through. I think that's why I've mentioned Taylor Swift several times because she's like the example of like writing that I followed and why I even became a writer to begin with. And the creation process for me is the most fun. Like I'm a writer. I'm an artist because of like the whole, exactly what you're saying. Like I have the whole vision I feel in what I'm trying to accomplish. But like I feel at home when I'm like coming up with cool melodies and coming up with lyrics. And this process was really interesting for me, especially because like I've been a writer for other artists the last couple years and I still am, but like that was my main focus. And shifting into a space where I was like, this is my time to ask myself, what do I want to say? Like, what do I have to say to people? I've been asking these artists what they want to say. And I got to be selfish and be like, what do I want to say? Like, what do I have to say? And like the intro to my record, like I was really adamant about making every line asking myself, if somebody didn't know me, what would I want them to know about me? If I wasn't afraid, afraid to say it, if I wasn't scared of the consequences, like what would be the sentences that I would want people to know about me? And the first thing I say is, hi, nice to meet you. I've never been in love.
Hi, nice to meet you. I've never been in love. I promise everyone that myself is enough.
Which is hilarious because if you've heard all the singles, you're like, it sounds like she's been in love. Like she's been through some stuff. And I go on to just like, list facts about me. Like I say, I'm not OCD, but my friends will tell you I'm controlling. Like there's so many lyrics that are just like, I mean, like I would be terrified to say them, I think, face to face to somebody. But when you write them in a song and lyrics and they piece together so well, it's like something really beautiful about the vulnerability and having the space to be like, this is what I want to say. I'm an artist and like, here's what I want you guys to know. And also leaving the space for people to connect to it was like so freeing. I mean, so freeing.
Well, and that's, I think, the difference between being a songwriter and being an artist is that when you're writing for other people, you're understanding a kind of translation. You're understanding a kind of empathy. When you're writing for yourself, I mean, you're applying that same empathy to like cutting out the parts of you that maybe you're not happy are there, or just like getting yourself out of a moment, but also broadly having a very clear vision for yourself as an artist. Like I feel like the difference, like if you're just a songwriter until you have a vision for what makes a song your song.
Yeah. And it took time. Like it took practice for me because I'm so grateful for all the time that I spent just writing for other artists and writing for pitch, because I had no idea what my sound was. I had to practice and try a bunch of things to know what it wasn't, and being able to determine like, oh, I love this kind of style, but I love listening to it, but it's not my style. Like that's a big thing. There's a lot of artists that even I work with that like they'll bring in songs like, oh, I love this sound. And it's like a rap song or something that's freaking awesome and it sounds so cool, but there's no elements of it that like I could or they could even imagine for themselves. They just like the song, and sometimes that works and you find little elements of it to incorporate, but a lot of the times I feel like it's just like, how are we finding the difference between what we like to listen to versus what is actually authentic to us and feels real, you know?
That's a really tricky thing.
And our early stuff was like, there were a lot of sad songs, and for a while I wondered why, despite the fact that it felt like it was being authentic, I didn't feel like I connected to it. And I feel like when you're kind of writing specifically about like how you think you're supposed to be feeling about something, it's not you don't have, there's almost going to be a disconnect. 100%. I think our newest stuff, like and I hear it in your stuff too, in our newer stuff I'm like angry. Like there's an anger in there because we've hung a couple times. Like I'm a very happy guy. I'm very like I love, like just cracking jokes and whatever. And I know that if I let myself get angry about anything, like that is a road that I can't go down. So it's been nice. Like it's been nice
an outlet for it.
To have an outlet for it. But that's the thing, is that it's not something that is commenting on how I'm feeling. It's something that's commenting on something that like, that is almost in the periphery of feeling.
Totally.
It's something that like you didn't even know you could name until you were in this world that you can write. So I definitely feel everything that you're saying about writing, especially writing for yourself. It's like, do you write how you feel, or do you write do you write the thing that you're even afraid to like even broach the subject of, you know?
Totally. There was a point in like where I thought I was done with the project, where I met with my publishers and they asked me the question like, you know, you're writing great songs, but like you have to like, I don't remember exactly what their words were, but it was something along the lines of like, what do you want people to know about you though? Because I was so used to writing like for other people and the mindset of like, oh, we got to phrase this in the way that'll be the vaguest and most relatable. Right. And I was afraid to even like put in specifics about my own life. And like, and I just kept just trying to write it in the frame of like writing a pop song. And it was like, it took them saying that for me to feel like, oh, I forgot. Like I can actually write like a lyric that's specific to me. Like, again, I make a Taylor Swift reference. Like she did like with You Belong With Me, like she wears short skirts, I wear t-shirts. Like, I don't know, even those sorts of things. I think I probably would have been afraid to say like specific, actual, true elements, because I was like, well, what if that person doesn't wear short skirts? Are they going to relate to it? And it's like, I was in this box for a little bit. And I think having that conversation allowed me to be like, okay, you know what? I can say this line that maybe somebody doesn't directly have that exact experience, but they know the feeling behind it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and we come from a background of film too. And one of the things that I love about, even in like, say something like documentary, even in something that's quote unquote true, there will always be some form of editing. And no matter what, whenever you're editing, you are telling a kind of lie. Yeah. But in a weird way, editing and you know, sort of how you shape and structure a story is lying to find a truth.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, to what, you know, to Taylor Swift's line, it doesn't matter what anybody's wearing, because the truth that she's trying to say runs deeper than the like the specifics of what somebody is wearing, you know. And we've written really, really personal songs where we're, you know, where we say, well, here are the details, and they're not all factually true, but but the truth of what is being said is there.
Totally. I'm so with you.
Do you have a favorite song on the record, and do you have a favorite line from that song?
My favorite song changes by the week, but I was just thinking really, because like they all offer something totally different, and there's days where I'm in the mood to listen to something that's like so fun and stuff, and I would pick that one. But like I think recently I've been really excited and terrified to put out this song called Change for Me that I wrote about my dad, and it's framed in a way where people probably wouldn't know that it's about my dad. They might think it's about a relationship or anything. And I think that's probably my favorite, at least this week, because the process that went into writing that was like, well, it was strenuous. I mean, it was really difficult because I have a very complicated relationship with my dad, and we're in a place now where we get along and we find ways that we can connect. But as many of us have struggled with like our relationships with our parents, like there have been issues and pain that like ultimately ends up coming up later in your life as an adult. So I think that probably is my favorite. I spent like months just accumulating bits and pieces of information that I wanted to include in it, because it's not one of those things where like you can't break down an entire relationship in like in 2 to 6 hours like you would in a session. I knew that I wanted to just over the course of time jot down things that were important for me to say and important for me to make note of. And so eventually I sat down and was like, all right, I got to just dive into this. I had literally like, I still have the note. It's like, you know, on notes, when you scroll, you'd have to scroll up like 7 times to get to the bottom of it. There's just so much information. I think that probably my favorite, it's basically a song about how you need to let go sometimes in order and just let go of trying to control the situation and accept that somebody's not going to change in order for you, I think, to grow and even start to build a relationship with that person that you need to. A lot of it is like meeting the person where they're at. But the bridge in that song lyrically is like always stands out to me. I think the line that hits me the most is, I blame you for me missing the signs. I blame you for ruining guys for me. I hate you for trying to change my mind. It's the same move. The particular line that sticks out to me is, I saved you, but you won't let go of the gun.
I blame you for me missing the signs. Blame you for ruining guys for me. Hate you for trying to change my mind. It's the same move. I'm holding my tongue and I wait for you, but you never come. God, I saved you, but you won't let go of the gun.
And it's because it like makes me choked up to say it, which it seems really like simple and to the point. But when you spent so much time trying to lift somebody else up, I think in any relationship, and trying to support them and make them believe that, you know, you're not going anywhere, or that you love them and you support them, but they're always on guard and they're always like, they have the gun up. You're like, I'm your safe haven. I'm the person that like made you feel like everything's going to be okay. Why do you have the gun up at me still? And it was just like that. Right. It's the last line before the last chorus when I end up really belting and like letting it all out. And it's when I belt and let it all out, it's such a release, because you can hear it in my voice. It's like, frustration and sadness and defeat and disappointment. And that line being like, why won't you just let go of the gun? But then me being like, you know, you're not going to change for me in the end. That is the lyric. I think that's probably my favorite, just because every time I sing it, I'm like, whew.
I mean, it shook us when we heard it. It was incredible.
That's a doozy of a
Thank
song.
you. Yeah.
And we both, I think we both looked at you afterwards. Like, I'm like, that's not about a guy. That's about a little more than that.
Well, okay. Yeah. What I also appreciate is that, like, I mean, obviously, like we said at the beginning, we had heard of you, but like we also heard your record immediately upon meeting you.
Oh
yeah,
I
think it's so funny.
As an artist, I think it is a kind of a cool way to meet someone.
Yeah.
Like I honestly,
well, because we were all sharing. We were like, nice to meet you. Here's all of our
stuff.
stuff.
I think that's actually a really nice way to get to know someone. Because it's like, I felt like I knew so much about you, who you were, and what kind of person you were, and what you had been through. And it's a nice icebreaker, because it's just like, oh, now I understand so much more about your energy and your intentions.
Thank you.
It was really cool to just be thrown into the deep end. And I feel like by the end of that day, I was just like, this person is my friend. I just want this person to be my friend.
I think generally any friendship should start with, oh, and here's my trauma. Like, I feel like friendship should be like handled like The Bachelor, or The Bachelorette, where it's just like, okay, so here's my PTC, my personal trauma card,
right?
Our personal tragedy card. We listened to the Game of Roses podcast, so let's shout out to that.
Shout out
to the Bachelor podcast.
Oh, so good. I love that show.
But I think there's something to be said about it. It's like, you show the song, it's like, nice to meet you. I'm a songwriter. I write incredible songs. And by the way, you like, here's a little thing now you know about my dad. And then Noah plays his song. Now you know about my mental illness.
Right.
Yeah, I play my song. It's like, now you know about my last messed up relationship and my parents divorced, and then we're done. And then we watch The Bachelor.
Exactly.
That's why I like super encourage when people listen to the whole project to listen to the record, all of the lyrics in the record, because the first thing I say in the intro is, hi, nice to meet you. I've never been in love. And everything's true. Everything you hear is true. So if you hear a song like Change For Me and you're like, oh my gosh, like there's so much emotion behind this and power, you have to assume it's not about a guy. I said I've never been in love. So I may not have said this is about my dad, but you could put the pieces together that there's more to it. And that's why I'm like, listen to every lyric, because even the songs that you think are about one thing, I don't think so. There's one song on the record, I'm not going to say the name of it because I got to hold on to something here. But it sounds like it's about like a crazy girl, and it's a completely satirical song. And it's a playoff of like the similar in how Taylor Swift wrote Blank Space, but it's satirical, and it makes me seem like I'm a crazy person basically, but it's supposed to be like making fun of people that have this trope about women being crazy. So just listen carefully to everything, you know?
Well, I think it speaks to your skill and your craft as a writer that you're able to write these songs that people might at face value take a certain way and enjoy within a particular context or with a particular lens. But for the people who actually are going to be going on Genius and arguing in the comments about what the lyrics mean, that's there's a lot to be unpacked there.
I mean, definitely. As an occupational hazard, I listen to lyrics. Like, I know that there are people who are like, well, I don't really hear the lyrics the first couple times. I'm like, no, that's all I'm listening to. And if they're not good, then I'm like, oh, well, at least the hook melody was fine. Like, you know, hearing great lyrics. And I feel like it's one of those things where it's like, you think you're never going to see a great movie again. Like, you think you're never going to watch like a great, like you finish a television show you love. You're like, I'm never going to see something that good again. And then you're always just like, oh, right. Like, I will again. There have been lyrics. That's how I feel
when I write a song. I'm always like, oh, I'm never going to write something that good again.
Literally.
I mean, I feel that.
Every
that way
songwriter is like, well, that's it for me.
And every week that passes, I prove myself correct.
No, it's not true.
I want to give myself a day since a workplace accident counter, like a day. Like, how many days has it been since I wrote something decent counter? It's been 15 months since I wrote a decent
I would
lyric.
literally be so depressed. I can't do that. Then as a result, I end up listening to my songs like, so many freaking times in the car. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've listened to my own record. It's embarrassing because I'm just trying to chase that feeling of like, oh, remember when I did something good?
Right. Yeah, no, listen. I mean, the song that I showed you when you came over, I listen to it almost every day because I'm like, oh my God, that was the last good thing that I wrote.
That song is so good. You have to send that to me.
I just got cellos on it. So I'm gonna like organize the cellos.
We're putting cellos on Change for Me. I'm so excited.
Yes. Hey, if you need a great cello player, shout out to Isaiah Gage.
Yo, that's awesome. I can't wait to hear your version. I'm so excited.
But and then my brain's like, well, at least you're level 220 in Overwatch, and I'm like, fuck.
See, I don't have that. Jimmy. I go, well, at least I have a cute dog. That's my thing.
And actually, that's a wonderful segue because right before we start the question round, I had to ask you a very important question.
Yes. Go ahead.
How's Banana? Tell us about Banana. Thank you so much for
asking. I've come to a point where I'm realizing that what if people don't actually love me for me and they just love my dog? I literally my friend, I was going to hang out with her tonight and she was like, there's been a request that you bring Banana. I'm like, that's funny. If I didn't bring her, would you still want me to come over? Like, hypothetically? And she's like, yeah, sure. My dog is phenomenal. For those who don't know, and I don't know how you couldn't because she's the star of the world, I was just fostering her for quarantine and that did not work. I did not end up just fostering her. I adopted her. She's perfect. Truly perfect. Like, you know how everybody says their dog is perfect? My dog is actually perfect. And Noah and Nate can attest to it.
Yep.
Can't you?
Confirm.
She's perfect.
Sorry, I just sneezed. I love your dog so much.
Thank you.
I loved your dog this much, and then you started talking for Banana, and then I realized that Banana. Yeah. Like I would say something, and you'd be like, "Well, can you do it? Can you do the banana voice?"
Yeah, I have like a banana voice, and she only knows like a few words in my head. She just knows like, "Okay," and like, "Why?" and then every once in a while she'll go, "I'm Banana." I'm Banana.
Oh my God.
And in my head, she doesn't know how to say anything else. So anytime, because she has such like joy in her eyes, I'll be like, oh, okay, we're going to go outside now. And I just hear, like, she'll look at me and I just know she's going, okay. And then she'll go, why?
Like we were going, you're like, Banana says, bye. And I'm like,
yeah,
bye, Banana.
And you're like, that's what she said though. Like, I'm not making it up.
You have a bond with her. Like I completely trust you as a representative
Thank
for
you.
this animal.
Thank you. She does have an Instagram. I'm going to plug it. Banana Loves Peanut Butter.
Oh, please do.
Make sure you guys follow it.
Banana Loves Peanut Butter.
I have a fan page that literally makes posts about my dog. I'm like, this has gotten too far.
No, but that's what you want. That's
I know. Yeah. And then I repost those photos, not the ones of me, but of my dog. Because I'm like, wow, this is such a good edit.
You're perpetuating the dog stardom.
Exactly.
I think Banana should have a pub deal. I mean,
she's in all my sessions. She should straight up be getting publishing. Talk about, there's songwriters that are signed because they just like bring the energy. Talk about my dog bringing the energy. Like, no kidding.
We all know those publishers, and I won't say which, that put somebody in the room who doesn't write, but still takes a certain percentage for the publisher.
That's what
might as well have it be your dog, know?
In my head, though, I don't even think this is just me. My dog is so unimpressed by the fact that like I'm a musician and this is my job. Like, because she hears me sing all the time, like, and she hears my songs all the time, and she always just looks at me like she's annoyed. Like, she's like, are you done? All the time in my head.
Do you find that humbling? Do you find that helps?
It's exactly
that helps
what I
as an artist.
Yes, it is exactly what I need. I do not need her hyping me up. All she cares about is if I'm happy, really, and that's cool. That's exactly how it should be.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Well, on that note, are you and Banana ready for the question round?
The question round.
Ready. So ready.
First question. What is your phone background?
It is Rick and Morty right now.
Oh, geez, that's really awesome.
Oh my gosh, that was so impressive.
That's my party trick.
Is it just an illustration of Rick and Morty?
Yeah, I just every once in a while, I'm a person that gets so tired of I'm on my phone all the time and I get so tired of it. I have to change it constantly. Sometimes I'll just go on settings and adjust the font size, adjust the bold, because I just get bored and I just want to see something new. I need to refresh it. So I literally changed it today. But yesterday it was Gilmore Girls. I just try to put up things that make me happy or bring me joy, and I love Rick and Morty.
I hear you, dog. I can totally relate to that. I get bored all the time, but I also love Rory Gilmore,
Every time I see you now, I'm gonna make you do that with everything you say. I'm so thrilled.
Don't encourage it.
Sounds good.
Be careful what you wish for.
I used to do it before shows, and Noah at one point pulled me aside. He's like, "You're not going to be able to sing if you do that before the show."
No, that's why people are coming to the show. They want to hear that. That's the opening act.
No, but I would be before we even go on, I'll be I'm really nervous to go on stage, guys.
Oh, no. And then you strain your voice.
Scoob.
Imagine that story. You get on stage, you're I actually can't sing, guys. Sorry, I was just trying to do a Rick and Morty impression in the back.
That's a valid excuse, I think. All right, Maggie, do you have a non-musical hobby?
Yes, but it's a little embarrassing. It's not really embarrassing, but it is. Kind.
The more embarrassing, the better.
I'm really into SoulCycle.
Nice.
It's pretty.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh.
No, it's fine.
No,
it's
fine. I okay. So no, the reason I laugh is because I bike every day. I bike a couple miles a day.
Right.
I would call myself a cyclist.
Right.
And I'm laughing because I don't get it. My favorite part of biking is the changing of the scenery.
Going somewhere.
I can explain it to you if you want. I'll tell you exactly why it's fantastic. So basically, I realized I really, really love exercise. It took me a while. I've had a long relationship with body image and food and all this stuff. And it took me a while to actually like exercise. And I realized the only types of exercise I like are rhythmic exercise. So I love horseback riding, for example, because it's on a beat basically. And with SoulCycle, the whole premise is that you're pedaling to the rhythm of the music. That's literally their whole thing. And so for me, it's meditative and I'm just zoning out listening to the great music. And it's I don't even feel like I'm working out half the time. But my best friend was a SoulCycle instructor for 10 years. I met, long story, and she quit during COVID. And so I bought a SoulCycle bike. And so there's literally a SoulCycle bike in my tiny apartment that I ride all the time. And it's
listen, respect. I appreciate that. I'll do when a bounce is ready, I'll do the studio test, the car test, and the bike test.
Oh,
does this feel really good to bike to?
Will you bike to one of my songs and let me know what you think? Because I'm trying to figure it out.
I actually the other day was biking the Cruel World, and I'll tell you, it slaps. It's great. I hit a hill right as the vocoder comes in on the chorus, and it was awesome.
My friend Maya, who is the instructor, she used to play my unreleased demos in class for groups of people, and that people would come up to her afterwards and be like, "What's that song?" And she'd be like, "Oh, I can't tell you." And it was so fun. And then she'd always pick the songs that had the highest BPM too, so I was dying during them. So fun.
Next question.
Okay.
Most important, arguably.
Argue the question. So really, really think about your answer.
Okay.
Would you
be
a pirate?
Arr.
I knew it was going to be something like this. I'm thinking, I don't think so. but not like I want to say yes just to get the street cred, but the reality of it is that I'm quite afraid of the ocean. I like looking at it from afar, but God forbid we're in a crazy storm out on the ocean.
I would hate that.
I can't get thrown off that boat. I'm done. Like talk about anxiety.
I do not want to die drowning.
No.
That is, I will do everything in my power as a human being to not die drowning.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be a pass, but let it be known that for street cred purposes, yes, I would be.
You definitely landlubber pirate.
You definitely have pirate energy.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm honored.
I feel
you
like
could play a pirate on TV.
I feel like you download a car.
Yeah, you would download a car.
Hell yeah.
Do you have any tattoos? If so, what is your first?
I do. I have 3 tattoos. The first one I got is like an embarrassing Pinterest tattoo. I can't even talk about it. I got all my tattoos for reasons, which I'm really glad about, because even though it's a stupid, boring Pinterest tattoo, I did still get it for a reason. It's like a G and then a greater than sign and then an up arrow and a down arrow, and it means God is greater than the highs and the lows. And it was like during a time that I was really struggling with an eating disorder, and I overcame it and I went through recovery, and I got the tattoo in honor of like I can overcome all things shitty and continue to. And then the other one I have, all of them are like super deep, and the problem is that like people tend to ask about tattoos when you're like in party settings, like it's almost like a flirty thing. People be like, what's your tattoo mean? And I've had
you're like, here's my trauma. But that's the bachelor side. You got to show your PTCs early.
You know, so I started telling them, there's one tattoo that's even more deep. It was like I had like a nanny that, because my mom was a single mom for most of my upbringing, she helped raise me. And when she passed away, I had a voicemail left on my phone that she left. And it was saying just like that she loves me and to call her back. And I had it turned into a sound wave and tattooed on my wrist.
That's awesome.
But people always see the sound wave and they're like, that's really cool. What's that? And I have to lie, because you can't be like, it's my dead nanny, like in a party. Right, yeah. So I just say it's I'm a Slave for You by Britney Spears in wave form.
That's awesome.
and then the other tattoo is on my finger, and it's NY for New York, just because like I think I feel the most connected with New York as a city.
That's awesome. Those are really great. The sound wave is something I hadn't even thought of. But that's I haven't gotten a tattoo yet. I think I saw it when we were hanging out.
Yeah.
And I was like, so what's that? And you're like,
did I lie? What did I say?
No, you told the truth.
Oh, okay. Probably because I trust you.
It would be really funny if if this was the moment I realized you lied to us.
Sometimes I ask people, do you want the lie or the truth? And that always interests them. And they usually say both.
Yeah, I have I think for me, like if I were to get a tattoo, it'd have to be.
You don't have one?
No, I don't.
Oh wow. Okay, interesting.
It's partially like I'm Jewish, so there was nobody in my family was like, don't do it, but nobody in my family like has one.
Right.
So it was just kind of like, there's a lot of complicated stuff around Judaism and tattoos for some reason. Actually, not for some reason, for both
fair reasons,
Torah reasons and World War II reasons.
Fair. Okay.
So but I would always want, like, I always wanted something objective, like something that like something that was in somebody's handwriting or a waveform or something like that.
My New York is my handwriting, actually.
Yeah, because that for me is like you can't mess that up because it's like the imperfection of it or whatever.
It's not like an aesthetic piece of art.
Yeah, it's like if I were to get a lion and then like see a better lion, I would lose my mind.
Yeah. I get that completely.
I would actually go crazy.
I want to be tatted up. Like I want to be like Julia Michaels with like the whole sleeve and stuff. The problem is that I have a horrific phobia of needles. I don't even know how I got through like the tattoos that I do have. There's no way I could get through it. And also I kind of like that my music's like grungy and like edgy and rock, but then I have like a dog named Banana and I like do Soul Cycle because I like throwing people off. Like I dress with like chains and like dark eyeliner, and then I have like a dog named Banana, and like I'm not tatted. I feel like it adds to the aesthetic of like let's throw people off. I think there's something
powerful about that.
Thank you. Yeah,
definitely.
Let's mix it up.
I feel like a lot of producers are nerds like that. I love that. You lean into you lean into what you are, but that doesn't mean you can't have fun with the project.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, 100%. I'm so with you.
All right, this is an important question that I'm very excited to hear your answer on. What is your go-to karaoke song?
You know what? It's so funny. I literally was just thinking about this the other day because people are always like, oh my gosh, you're a singer. Like, we should go and do karaoke. Like, obviously not during COVID, post-COVID. But I don't understand that theory because I'm like, nobody wants to go do karaoke with people that can sing. Like, you want to go and go and do karaoke with like horrible, like we're all drunk and just like wailing the songs.
Oh well, I can't sing, so that's half the fun. Is like I'll be like I'm singing "Come Clean" by Hailey Knox.
That's why.
But see, that's the fun part.
That's why my go-to karaoke song is Mr. Brightside, because that's not singing.
Oh, that's amazing. Right. Yeah. So to answer your question, because of that, I've been working really hard to try and come up with a good answer because there are songs that I love just like singing full out, but nobody wants to hear you do that. So I haven't been able to come up with a good like ironic one that would be fun for like a good singer. I probably would pick like Bleeding Love if I was going to like sing, sing.
Yeah.
I did a little TikTok cover of that the other day and I had so much fun singing it, especially because like I will say like she has the most like unique voice, like the way she pronunciates things and stuff that I think I'd have a lot of fun just like trying to channel my Leona Lewis, you know?
Right.
What's your first concert?
My first concert was Hillary and Hailey Duff. The sister tour. Yep.
What?
And I distinctly remember it because it was like my birthday present and I went and like got my hair done and like my mom was in the hair salon being like, she's going to her first concert and all this stuff. And we sat really close and I remember I touched Hillary Duff's hand and Hailey. I touched Hailey Duff's hand like 8 times. And
I
Hillary
forgot
Duff
about Hailey Duff.
Oh yeah. Can't forget Hailey. Oh my gosh. And then I went back to school the next day and I was like, I touched their hands. And then I found out that another girl had like backstage passes and I was so livid because I was like, wow. Here I was like excited that I had like touched their hands and so rude. Anyway, it was such a great experience.
Come Clean hit me in such a profound way. It was the first record. Metamorphosis was the first like CD I bought for like my portable CD player. And I was so inspired, like so transfixed by the lyrics. Like I was so like blown away by this song that I actually hand wrote out the lyrics to show my friend.
Oh, incredible.
I was like Paige, you have to hear this song.
Oh, that's so special.
But like if you can't hear it, like read these lyrics. Aren't they so special? Like,
wow.
You know, and that was my first experience of like songwriting.
Incredible.
was transcribing Hillary Duff. I don't even think I told you that. No,
I didn't know that. Which like I feel like the funny thing is now that like if someone pitched any of those lyrics to you in a session, you would shoot them down.
I mean, yeah, but like it was also ahead of its time.
I mean, in a
if somebody pitched that to me 5 years ago, I'd be like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a good song.
Very much a Cara Diaguardi song.
I was just gonna say, yeah.
Yeah.
Fire.
What are your 3 thoughts at this very moment? Go, lightning round.
My phone's dying. Isn't that embarrassing? I'm so upset that those are the 3 thoughts on my mind. They should be like, my record is coming.
wait. So what were the 3 thoughts? The 3 thoughts is my phone is dying?
My phone's dying.
My phone's dying.
Those are all 3 thoughts. I love it.
Isn't that sad?
The last question of the Talking Line question round is, what are you looking forward to?
What am I looking forward to? I mean, in an obvious answer, putting my music out, but like to get more like deep and genuine about it. Like I've been working on music for so long, my own music. Like I put out a song in 2019 or maybe even earlier than that. That was the last single I put out before this project. So like now moving into a place where I have a whole project and like a whole record to show people is like, it's just so special. And I really cannot wait. I'm really looking forward to people hearing what's on my heart in a genuine way. That's the honest truth.
Well, Maggie, Emlyn, we are huge fans and also very grateful to be friends.
The feeling is mutual.
Thank you. We hope to write in the future. We hope for many more music sharing experiences, and we're just going to be biking along to and blasting your record when it's out. So
thank you.
For anybody listening, check out anything that's out. Listen to the lyrics. And Maggie, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a fun chat conversation, and I appreciate you guys so much. You're so talented and brilliant, and I love this podcast.
Oh, you're all so innocent. It's a cruel world, isn't it? 'Cause you thought I'd drop, but I'm not gonna wait. Oh, you're all so limited. Yeah, you're insignificant, maybe. It's a cruel world,
Thank you for listening to this episode of Talking Lion.
We'd like to thank Isotope and our Patreon subscriber Alan C. for their support.
If you'd like to show your support, ask our guests your questions, talk to us on Discord, and get a shout out at the end of each episode, subscribe to our Patreon over at patreon.com/talkinglion.
Thank you for listening and see you next time.